Welcome to Gamechangers live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now.
And welcome to Gamechangers Live. You can catch us each and every week on your favorite podcast station, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you choose to catch it. And we bring you game changers in their field. And this week, we got Shone Anstey from CEO at Liquid Fintech Corp. He's up in Canada. You can see him dressed up in his hoodie. His heater isn't working, but he's rolling with the punches. How are you, Shane?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Thank you. It's cold up here in my house furnace packed in, and they're coming to fix it tomorrow. So I just got to suck it up for a little bit here. But thankfully, I got a nice warm liquid jersey here, and it's keeping me good. So we're doing great. I would love to be in Miami right now.
Exactly. So Shone brings 20 years of experience in building complex technologies and software, primarily within search analytics and data center operations. He's been engaged with cryptocurrency since 2012, has acted as a technology lead for an industrial Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin mining pool. And in addition, he's a certified Bitcoin professional as well as a certified cryptocurrency investigator. Shone is also director and co-founder of Big Digital Assets, responsible for bringing the team together in 2015 and originating the company's core analytics products, featuringg. These tools are used to mitigate the AML risk associated with cryptocurrency and are currently utilized by the U.S. federal law enforcement agency in Washington, D.C., along with cryptocurrency companies globally. So during his time leading the company, he oversaw its go public transaction in late 2017, capital raises of an aggregate $23.2 million and $3 million strategic acquisition of Netcoins in August 2019. Recently, Big hit unicorn status with a $1 billion market cap. And now he's CEO of Liquid Fintech Corp. So quite a resume, my friend. You've been involved in the field here in blockchain and cryptocurrency for some time. And so, tell me a bit more about how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, it's been a journey and a half, and it's gone by quick. I've been in tech for a long time. So, and internet technologies, building out data centers and all those kinds of things. So when Bitcoin came around and somebody introduced it to me, it didn't take me months and months to figure out what it was. It was like, hey, this is just an extension of the internet. This is the next thing for the internet, and everything we're doing here is just a continuation of the revolution of the internet. That's what it is. And so from there, I came back from an analytics background, and I'm a pragmatic person. You're looking at how do you take Bitcoin mainstream, how do you take crypto mainstream, and everybody's like, well, you really want to have, everybody's talking about banks and Wall Street getting involved. We were always talking back in 2013, 2014, and the reality is, unless you have some kind of compliance software, none of them will get involved because they can't legally get involved. And it's one simple concept. It's that if these banks or institutions get fined, the directors and the officers, if they don't have compliance software, they become personally liable. So nobody in the right mind is going to do that. And so it's a very, so you do this, Bitcoin maximalists don't like the analytics part, but it's an open network. It gets analyzed. It's actually created comfortability around for law enforcement and regulators. We've met a lot of them and done a lot of education, and a lot of them actually own crypto and Bitcoin. They're actually very pro, and the laws will change and morph over time. And we'll make progress in the industry like we have. And now you're seeing a lot of Wall Street money coming in, and the horse is out of the gate. It's unstoppable. You can hear all the bluster in Washington, D.C. It's just bluster. The same kind of bluster we heard back in the early 2000s about banning the internet and taxing the internet and doing all these things from the Senate and Congress, and it went nowhere. So this will pass too, and we're coming off that. But so that's initially how I got into it. Started BIGG back in. I came up with the ideas late in 2014 and knocked on my co-founder's door in 2015. He's crazy enough to join along, and we went through crypto winter, survived all of that, and came out the other side and built one of Canada's a great compliance software that competes with Chain, Elliptic, all those.
So hold on, let me unpack some of this stuff because I'm not familiar with all the jargon and so forth. So tell me what what did Big do?
So it was big. It was actually blockchain intelligence group. It's strictly analytics and compliance software. Started off as that, and then what we did is right around 2000. Pardon me.
Is that what your background is in?
Yeah, we definitely, analytics has been my background, and then so it definitely, there's a huge need in the compliance industry for creating for regulation. The regulation is not going to go away, and you're going to have to deal with it no matter what we want about Bitcoin. And at this point in time, for the finance industry, if you're going to bring them in, you're going to have the reporting around that. And so within that, we actually stepped up in 2019. We bought Netcoins. So in that time period, there was a big exchange up here in Canada called Quadriga. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it went under, and the founder took off, and there's 200 million missing, and it was really damaged the markets up here in Canada, and the regulators stepped in and been like, what's going on? We said, look, we know regulation, we know the regulators. We're a public company, we've got auditors, board of directors. We bought Netcoins and bolted on our compliance software and created a compliance first exchange, which recently.
What is Netcoins?
So Netcoins actually is a simple place. It's kind of like Coinbase. You can go in there. It's very easy to actually transfer money in out of Canadian bank accounts and be able to buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, buy Litecoin. Really, just makes it very easy for people to get on board with it. And it's become one of Canada's largest exchanges, and its transaction volume and client growth is growing very quickly. It's also Canada's first publicly traded, fully licensed crypto exchange in Canada across all the provinces as of about 8 weeks ago. So it was granted a license by IROC and all the regulators. So it was a really big deal. It took us couple of years, and several $1 million and a lot of time. But because of our reputation and our public status and all those things, we were able to get it over the line. So now we've broken ground on that, and it's very exciting to see. And the team's done very well there. So I'm still there as a director. Large shareholder, of course. My full-time focus is on Liquid in the last 2 years. After the Netcoins acquisition, Mark Binns has been running that team there, and they've done a great job taking it to the next level. And my focus has been on where I like to be is, tech startups where it's not quite mainstream, but it's not quite bleeding edge, and we can start to bolt on a lot of value before everybody wakes up and realize that, hey, this is the next big place to play. And that's been my history of operating for my entire career. And the Lightning Network is the space.
What do you think is the most needed component that's missing right now in the space? Is it compliance? Is it reporting? Is it transaction fees? I think it's Lightning Network. I think it's Lightning Network for some simple reason that in order to fulfill what the Lightning Network is. So absolutely. So the Lightning Network is the payment layer. It's layer 2 to Bitcoin's layer 1. It solves Bitcoin's scalability issue. It takes Bitcoin from being 7 transactions a second, which is very slow, very secure. If you want to transfer $100 million of a Bitcoin, the main network, that's absolutely acceptable if you want to wait a few hours. But if you want to use every day for coffee or purchases or remittances of smaller denomination, the Lightning Network allows you to send really small amounts. You can pay it down in El Salvador. You can buy a Big Mac with it and use that stable currency. So it has a real solution to the scaling problem, and it's allowing Bitcoin to go from the first 100 million people scaling up to the next billion people and onboarding a lot more users. And you're seeing a really rapid growth in the Lightning Network over the last 5 years. This year alone, a 205% increase in growth in the network in terms of nodes and channels and capital on the network, and continuing to accelerate. And that has lower transaction fees, I suppose, as well. It does. It actually has the fractional transaction. You can do microtransactions, and the fees will come up a little bit over time as it normalizes, but it will still be maybe 3% of what an average Bitcoin transaction fee is. So it'll be very low. It's designed for payments. It scales into the millions of transactions. So it goes beyond Visa and MasterCard, way beyond. And it creates this open payment rails, open payment infrastructure at massive scale. And it's going to be very tough for a lot of these companies to compete against, because we now have incredible network effect that's coming on stream. And do other currencies such as Ethereum, other blockchains have a similar network? Is it also Lightning, or is Lightning particular to Bitcoin?
Lightning is particular to Bitcoin. You can use it on other proof of stake networks like Litecoin, but it's all about Bitcoin.
Okay.
Ethereum's got their own scaling solutions, and Solana's got other scaling solutions. But really, they're trying to be smart contract global computers. Ethereum may move to proof of stake. That's their intention, and which I think is a mistake. I think they'll lose their mode of proof of work. But I like to see a big separation between Bitcoin and Ethereum because they're really different beasts. One's hard currency and hard money and payment networks, and the other is smart contracts.
So you mentioned El Salvador, and they're doing something very interesting, right? A very breakthrough kind of social test with Bitcoin. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a small nation. There's only 6 million people. They actually get a lot of, about 22% of their GDP is actually from remittances from overseas, a lot from America. And a lot of it gets eaten up in the remittance market. So they take 15% right off the top for legacy financial institutions. So a Lightning network allows them to have, they use the US dollar as their currency. And now they've ratified Bitcoin as a legal tender down there, and it can be accepted anywhere, essentially, as it continues to roll out, and it separates them from it's the world's first, and it makes Bitcoin legal tender. It's quite something.
How's the learning curve been there for normal kind of day-to-day folks to understand what a wallet is on their phone and how to use it? How are people adapting it quite quickly, or is it taking some time?
That's the whole range, really, depending how technical you are. There's been 3 million downloads of the actual wallet itself. The government wallet. The government gave everybody $30 worth of Bitcoin, and they're starting to roll it out. So they see it as a way to break free of the IMF and really change the dynamics of what's going on there. Certainly, we wish them every success, and it's only natural that countries in those kind of predicaments, Central America, third world nations, things they're indebted nations, are going to embrace Bitcoin very quickly, because in Nigeria, the peer-to-peer portion of Bitcoin is from the numbers I'm looking at, it's growing also very, very quickly. In North America, Canada, we still tap our MasterCards, we still tap our Visas. The infrastructure is solid here, and we're kind of insulated. We don't see how bad it is outside of our little bubble. And when you get down there, you realize that, it's being done out of desperation. And we think Bitcoin is volatile, and it's nowhere near volatile compared to those currencies. You wouldn't dare put it in the Turkish lira right now or anything else, because you'd get wiped out. And so you want Bitcoin, and it's a true global open architecture for trust and money, and it's changing the world very quickly.
Interesting. So our mayor down here, Mayor Suarez, Francis Suarez, has been talking about paying government workers in my city of Miami in Bitcoin, and providing wallets with some coin in it, and also creating this thing called the Miami coin. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I've heard of it. Yes. Yeah, I've heard of it. We'll see what happens. Miami coin. It is a way for them to sort of float a bond effectively. The Miami coin. We'll know if is it going to be 100% back Miami coin. But the Bitcoin aspect, I like. It's clever, and it's putting them on the map. And certainly in terms of getting more in, Bitcoin as for in terms of technology and the whole space, it's going to drive a lot more tech investment into Miami. So it's very clever on that part. And they're going to eat New York's lunch. New York put that licensing restrictions in years ago, and it's hurt them ever since. And they may be the financial capital of the world, but times are changing.
That's right. That's right. So, all right. So you were in big, and you now opened up Liquid Fintech Corp. Let's talk about that. What is the game changer here? Why did you guys start this? What was the problem you're trying to solve?
Right. So one of the aspects is getting on the Lightning Network itself. We have a platform as a service where it makes it very easy for companies, and we're really focused on B2B, not B2C, or for companies to get on the Lightning Network and to be able to use it. So our platform, which we've launched out, first customer is Netcoins, which was obviously we're very close to that company, but a way for them to actually accept deposits into their exchange via Lightning Network, and it's instant deposits, instant settlements. And our platform makes it very easy. It abstracts away all the complications, produces an API that they can use as a web-based interface, and in addition to that, we have our own what they call routing nodes, and we have a lot of Bitcoin that we use to create liquidity to help ensure that transactions get from point A to point Z. and the network helps function. And so that's a big part of our business is continuing to set up what they call routing nodes. So I want to talk a little bit about the Lightning Network, or how it works. So what is the Lightning Network? We know it's layer 2 to Bitcoin's layer 1. It's really the payment network at scale. And what it is, it's a series of computers known as nodes. And on those nodes, we run payment channels. And so you and I could open up a payment channel, and we could have Bitcoin on that payment channel, and it's a technical requirement of the channel. And you and I could do all kinds of transactions back and forth. We could do a million transactions inside of an hour. And at the end of that hour, we said, you know what, we're done doing business. That's it. We can close that channel, and the final balance on each side will get written back into the main network as one transaction. And so we have a way to actually to rapid fire.
It's kind of like a settlement at the end of the day.
Correct. Right. Yeah. And in a lot of cases, channels would just simply remain open forever. And that's where the network is going, where money will just simply reside on the Lightning Network. And it uses native Bitcoin. There's no other token for it. And so it really does solve that problem. So we get in there and we help provide. And so you have routing nodes that basically ensure that, we can find a route to make sure the payment goes to where it needs to go. And it gets handed off from hop to hop. Kind of how internet traffic, when you want to look something up, goes from hop to hop until it reaches its final destination. And you have ISPs, in our case, a Lightning Network Service Provider, LSP, sitting in the middle there, helping ensure that it all functions properly.
Interesting. And so how many clients do you have right now using it? And you said it's B2B. So these are what type of company?
Yeah, we're really looking for the bigger companies. So we've actually onboarded a few companies. Some we haven't disclosed yet, so we'll get to that. But we've seen uptick and we've seen interest in our platform, and we're really only focused on the Netcoins of the world, the bigger wallet providers. So we've actually announced that we did a deal with Breeze, BREEZ or Z, depending where you're from, and that's a wallet, a really popular Lightning Network wallet out of Israel, and we're providing liquidity to them. So that's where our business is going, and our mindset is very simple: just to continue to build out our core platform as much as we can, get as big a footprint on the Lightning Network as we can, so we can route as many many transactions, and we earn fees off those transactions. We earn micro fees off of it. So we want to make our footprint as big as we can, get as much Bitcoin on the balance sheet, put that Bitcoin to work on the Lightning Network, and earn yield. That's actually a big component of our business. The platform is also there, but the ongoing hosting fees, from my perspective, is just a small component. We really just want to have the businesses tied into our network, and we provide a great service, and we make a small percentage off every transaction.
Where do you see, a lot of times when I speak to guys like yourself in the industry, and I remember back in, I guess it was the late 90s, early 2000s, when the internet really came about, and well, not the internet, let's say email, right? When email came about, and people were thinking, okay, why do I have to send a note electronically? I just send a letter, right?
Totally.
And it's like, what the hell were we thinking? How do we not see this coming? We're at a point right now, like an inflection point, let's say, with blockchain, with crypto and so forth, where I think we're in a similar situation where a lot of people are just now starting to grasp the immense change that this is going to bring about, right? Where do you
100%.
see things now, and where do you see things going?
Well, that's a great question. So it really gets down to my philosophies, the company's philosophies and we and you kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit there. So it's what we have to answer one very specific question: what is Bitcoin? Like, what is it actually when we talk about it? And we all talk, it's a value transfer, it's value storage, digital money. It's being used for all those things. But at its core, from a technology perspective, it is a trust protocol, and it really sits there as this trust protocol, layer 8 to the 7-layer OSI stack of the internet. So for those of you who don't know, the internet's made up of 7 technology layers. They call it the OSI technology model. You can Google it and look it up. Bitcoin sits in there as layer 8, the trust layer, that we tried to do back in the 90s and we failed. And the magic of Bitcoin is it solved the ability to create trust, and the network handles all the trust aspects of it. Money and payments is just a first use case. It's a massive first use case, like email was as over the TCP/IP and the communication portion of the network. Mm-hmm. And everything we're seeing here is just a continuation and revolution of the internet. So when we look at it from a value perspective, and I look at it from a value perspective, I remember back in 98, 99, they were telling us the internet's worth $180 billion. And we're like, $180 billion is going to change everything. We have, just like you said, email and e-commerce,
Right.
everything's going to change. And sure enough, after Google goes public in 2004, they're thinking, the internet's maybe worth $3 trillion, and by 2010 it's worth 10 to 20 trillion. Now you look at the internet and say, okay, what's the value of it? It's an unfathomable number.
Yeah.
And that's just the original 7 layers of technology that were rolled out over a number of time, and they work together. So what's layer 8? What's the trust layer, the money layer? What's that worth? We think it's only worth $1 trillion for Bitcoin. I don't know the future, but looking at the history, when you understand it and recognize it as a protocol extension of the internet and the impact it will have, in my mind, it's going to go way beyond any of that, and will shock people into what it's going to do over the next 10 to 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so we're really at that. So that's a core philosophy for our company, and why we're in the space we're doing, because it has big network effect impacts. And it doesn't mean there won't be other cryptos that will come along and continue to do what they do within their role, but Bitcoin has a very specific role, and it's pure open architecture, and has brand and all these things that are effectively an unstoppable force now. And it's the government's not going to be able to shut it down. It's going to keep seeping through like water until the dam bursts. And and you have a whole generation that just grown up on their phones and digital age. They don't want anything else, right?
So what is the where do you think Bitcoin is going to be in 5-10 years? I mean, we're talking it's at 60,000 plus now.
Price predictions. Yeah, no, I think it will be the world's reserve currency at some point in time. It will be the world reserve. It will be the trust layer of the internet, no question. And it's in terms of price, you could have a market cap north of, it'll rival gold and then go way beyond that as it's used for many other things, not just payments. So it's hard to fight the ocean, and Bitcoin is the ocean. And just like the internet, a lot of companies were in denial. In fact, I gave a talk a couple of years ago in New York for a bunch of bankers at a private banking thing. And one of the things I talked about is like, what do you think your risk is for Bitcoin and crypto? And they're like, well, it's compliance, anti-money laundering. We don't want to get fined. Like, the companies like ours that's not your risk. You're mistaken, because companies like ours already solve that problem. In fact, we have much more clarity on half the cash you're taking in, and we can get you over the line on all this kind of stuff. Your biggest risk right now is inaction, because you don't understand that Bitcoin is an extension of the internet and a continuation of the revolution in the internet. Just as Amazon and all these companies just destroyed the commerce world, the world of finance is about to change in a major way. And when you start to understand that it's an extension of the internet, how long do you think it's going to be until Google and Facebook and Apple and Twitter and all the lords and masters of the internet that have massive control over and access to everybody's mobile phones decide that they're going to get into banking, and now they have the perfect network to do it, which is an extension of the internet? And here's the two big things. One, they have unlimited money. They just have unbelievable cash. And the biggest thing, they have armies of developers born and bred into a culture of disruption who want nothing more than to take Wall Street and turn it on its head, and they're going to do it. And so you are in a race against Silicon Valley. You're in a race against San Francisco and all the tech firms. And if you don't recognize that, in the next 5-10, over the next 5-10 years here, a bunch of these banks are going to go under. They're going to have to merge, and or they're just going to go under. Sorry, I get people messaging me as we're going on here. It seems to be a busy day, but this is what's going to happen. And so you're going to see the whole world of finance is going to change, and it's going to be done because the Bitcoin is the trust network and the payment network and the banking, open financial banking network, which is Lightning Network of the future. And so either they get on board or get left behind, but it's coming.
And these legacy organizations have a hard time just kind of getting their bearings as to wrapping their mind around it and the potential and seeing down the road. Whereas you got, the Silicon Valley and San Francisco and so forth, kind of developing these that are going to just kind of come and swoop these guys right out of this.
And embracing change and getting it. And you have these stodgy organizations. You got some people they just want to get to retirement. They just wanted to have somebody else deal with this. Or you got they're living in denial, because denial is a very powerful emotion. It's also a river in Egypt, but it's all these factors that are in play, and you're going to get some that will try to pivot, and then inevitably what's going to happen is these big firms are going to have to open the purse strings and go crazy and acquire whatever they can, because they're going to realize that, hey, Google's getting into banking. Maybe JP Morgan should be afraid, because It's these are major. These are the battle plans are being drawn up now, and you can see it when you're down there and it's coming. So if hey, you know what, you're going to see a mix of everything. You're going to see a bunch of them get. I remember when people were talking about how we should buy Sears stock because they have property and they have all this clean. It's all click and mortar, and they're gonna take Amazon out, and they're gonna take all these other companies out. They don't have the culture and the people inside their teams that can actually execute and actually pivot and make these things happen. So it'll be an interesting ride.
You make a great point about the culture, right? Because you see Sears as almost like a tanker, right? To turn a tanker. It's not like a speedboat, right? It takes very long. It takes a big sweeping turn, and it doesn't guarantee that you're going to make it out of this thing. So, as individuals, right, in just regular folks out there who perhaps are starting to dabble in it, what is the advice you can give to them in terms of? Because I think one of the biggest barriers to inaction is the lack of education and understanding around it.
100%.
Right? So
100%. Yeah, it's you need to read, you need to study, and you need to try to get down to some of the fundamental understanding beyond the hype, beyond the bro coins and everything else that's going on, all the noise. There's all kinds of noise. If you're going to get into the space, my feeling is focus on Bitcoin first. Read stuff like the Bitcoin Standard. Understand that it's a continuation of the internet. I have a book coming out soon. It's called with a co-founder, a co-author called "Trust on the Rise of Bitcoin," explaining why it's the trust layer of the internet and how it's going to affect change around the world, etc. These are the kind of things that you have to understand. And if you can just focus on understand Bitcoin first before you dabble off into some other bizarre coin, because I think you'll be much better off. But education is power in this space, and knowledge is power, and it's go where the strength is. And I always like to follow where you get the best and brightest developers. And there's some great developers on other chains, but really Bitcoin's the one that has core developers. And a lot of these core developers worked on the internet technologies, and they know scale and they understand how to they've been there, they've been in the trenches, they get it. So I like to follow them. That's where we want to play. And
now, a lot of folks see Bitcoin and they're saying, okay, it's $60,000 to own one Bitcoin. And so it seems so insurmountable, right? Because I should have bought it when it was $500. So they look at the next coin, okay, Ethereum. All right, well, that's at 4,400, a bit more, let's say, not cheaper, but affordable, let's say, to own a coin or some other ones. So we start dabbling in the ones that are these kind of smaller, lesser known coins, because it's, you're waiting for that big payday. So a lot of folks are kind of gambling, right? In a sense,
they are
placing their chips on the table and see what hits and hope something hits. What's the strategy that people should be taking?
Yeah, I think you need to understand that it's still very early days for Bitcoin. You need to have a position at first before anything. If you want to have a position in your portfolio for, speculating or other investments that you think might play out, I tend to look at, Bitcoin as money, the future reserve currency, the Lightning Network is the payment network, and then everything else beyond that in these smaller tokens is almost like VC investing. So you might be in on a Series A. Mm-hmm. They're not, there could be value there, and you may be transferring value with such and such token, but it's really based upon the team's ability to execute, and so you're investing in a company. And that's kind of the mindset I like to have. But I think it's, you build your Bitcoin position first, and then if you want to look at other things, that's up to. People have free will and they will gamble and do other things, but it's still, it's still early days in terms of where it's going to go. And people are talking about $100 trillion market cap. It seems so outlandish. I remember when Bitcoin hit $1 billion market cap, and I was like, wow, I can't believe it's $1 billion market cap. It seems so like it's such a number in my head, and not like $1 billion. It's nothing.
Yeah, now it's nothing, right?
Exactly. No, it's nothing, right? So it's all relative, and you could buy a portion of a Bitcoin, and so you need to have proper portfolio management, but really you have to understand Bitcoin first before you branch into anything else. But if you want to speculate, people will do what they want to do, and some are going to make money, some are going to get burnt badly. It's free markets, I guess, at that point.
Right. So as we start wrapping up here, what's the future for Liquid Fintech, and where do you guys see the company going in about 5 years or so?
Yeah, so we see ourselves we're going to continue to focus on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. We see that as the future financial rails of the world and the payment layers. And we're going to continue to expand our company along those lines in our deck and our website. And anytime we've talked publicly, we've made no. We talk about the looking for strategic acquisitions as it makes sense. from my history, we've done it before in the public markets and we've been successful with it. So our goal right now is just continue to build out a really solid base. If we see something that makes sense, we'll bolt it on for quicker acceleration, and then continue to focus on the financial rails and financial products across the Lightning Network. And one of the things that we need to do is just continue to get Bitcoin on the balance sheet, continue to deploy, get as big a footprint as we can, and let the network growth carry us up faster than anything possibly could. Very similar to all the companies in the 90s and 2000s. It was the growth of the network that carried them up, and we have the same massive network effect right in front of us. And so that's our strategy, and we're gonna stay to that model.
Well, you're very passionate, have a great track record in the space, man, and you guys are doing some great stuff. So best of luck to you, Shone. And where can folks reach out to you if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, if they want to reach out, I'm on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Shone Anstey. I'm certainly I'm available there. We have a website, Liquid Fintech, LQwD fintech.com, and they can contact us there as well. So we're open to communication, and if you have questions about the space, we're happy to share our knowledge.
Very cool. And hopefully we'll see you down here in Miami soon, some warmer weather. You don't have to wear that sweatshirt. You change it to a liquid tank top.
There you go. Absolutely. Right. I got the tank top. Perfect. That's what I need.
All right, Sean.
That's perfect. Well, thank you very much, Sergio. Appreciate it.
If you loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers, please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it. You may end up being the game changer in their lives.